Hello, and welcome back to the Right Brain podcast. My dad is here in the coolest shirt I've ever seen. But we're still a little matchy-matchy.
Think we're matchy-matchy?
A little bit. A little matchy-matchy.
Well, would make sense.
It would make sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about procrastination and task avoidance and all of those things. And what I would like to start off by saying is my dad told me that it's nice that we're doing this podcast and talking about everything and that I'm telling people that they can help themselves. But if I don't help myself and prove that it's true, then that's my fault. And I procrastinated on that to bring it full circle to what we're talking about. But recently I have been wearing my red lens glasses, these bad boys. And guess what? They've been helping me so much that I actually ordered the right size battery. And so
that's right. The battery issue last time.
Now I have the right size battery. What did I leave it on all night? I'm going to kill myself. Okay. These, I swear they're working.
They were working?
Yes. And I have more batteries. Oh my God. Someone's playing a trick on me. Anyway,
let me try.
I had the right batteries. And I've been wearing them at night when I watch shows and stuff. Flashing on the inside of this eye and outside of this eye, right?
Yes.
Okay, don't worry about it. Anyway, one day we'll show you how they flash. But okay, sorry. Now I got all mixed up.
But the point is what you're saying is that you were procrastinating or you were avoiding.
Yeah.
Or you were finding it hard to motivate yourself to do what you knew you needed to do to make you feel better or to compensate. And then you did the thing and it made you feel better and made you procrastinate less, which made you do more.
I've been doing what he told me to do. I've been wearing the red lens glasses. I have my brain driver here. These are some headphones that you wear like this and they stimulate the inside of your ears. Are they
bone stimulating headphones?
They're bone stimulating headphones, obviously. And also I haven't been drinking for the past 6 days. And even though I love drinking and I think it gives me most of my personality, turns out people still like me.
I have no doubt people are going to like you, especially you don't need to be drinking for people to like you. And you don't need other people to drink to like you.
Well,
there are a lot of people I know like that.
But yeah, so all of those things are kind of helping. And I'm just marking this as a beginning of a journey of me getting a little bit better and better and better. So that I can prove to you guys that all of these things do improve.
It's so important because remember I had that thing that I wanted you to read a little bit on the way over, but we were in a car and you couldn't read it. And I was talking about...
Yeah, my dad handed me the finest print of a 7-page paragraph. And he was like, you mind just skimming this? And I was like, first of all, I can't even read one word when I'm in a car. How am I going to read this novel?
and you're also,
I get so car sick. And dyslexic.
Yeah, and as soon as I handed, I knew it was wrong. But what I was talking about, the difference between, judging somebody versus trying to influence them or trying to hold somebody accountable and make them, obviously there's nobody wants judgment. Nobody likes judgment. You're never going to influence somebody if you judge them. As soon as you judge somebody, they're not listening to you. So that's why we're always trying to make sure, because what are we trying to do? We're trying to influence an audience. We're trying to influence their behavior. We're trying to help them, but influence them to do things, trying to motivate them to do things. And if you judge them, and say, hey, if you're stupid, whatever, that's not going to work. You're not going to get an audience very well. So you want to be able to influence them in a positive way. And there's different ways to do that. But one way is holding somebody accountable, meaning that when you look at it, if you love somebody, Is it better to be just completely non-judgmental and never judge them and let them do whatever they want to do, even if it's self-destructive? Or are you going to be accountable and actually call them out on some behavior, or call them out or say, you're better than this. You can be better. You're not your best version. This is not the best person for you of who you are right now. And I know that you can do better, and maybe give them ways of doing that, right? And influence them in a positive way. I think that's someone who cares more. And that's really what parents should be doing, right?
Yeah.
Parents, because they love their kids. And if their kids aren't doing what they know their kids should, some parents, again, will be like, well, I'm never going to yell at my child, and I'm never going to do that, and I don't want them to feel judged. But you also need to hold them accountable. But the thing with holding people accountable is that if you're going to tell somebody that they should do something and you don't do that, you're not that person, then you have no credibility, right? Mm-hmm. So the point is that
I have to walk the walk.
Exactly. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't get, and a lot of people don't do. They don't realize that, again, especially like if you are judgmental, I mean, do you have a right to be judgmental? Look at your life. Who are you? What are you doing, right? If you're going to hold somebody accountable and say, you should do this, and you should do this, and you should, I have these conversations with parents all the time. I'm like, what does every parent want for their child? They want their child to grow up and be, mentally healthy and happy. Number one word they use, happy. I want them to be in love. I want them to know love. I want people to love them. I want them to love their job. I want them to be passionate about their work. I want them, to be, really good health and, not be depressed. And, that's what we want, right? And I'll often say to parents, well, are you that?
Yeah.
Right? Are you that? If you're laying on a couch and you're depressed and you're in a horrible relationship and you hate your job and you're overweight and you're on all different types of drugs, you can tell your kids not to do that. But the fact is they're going to follow what you do. So that's why, but that can be the ultimate motivator. Like, again, the left brain needs motivation. And when you have trouble generating motivation with the left brain, you have to pick something that is a really strong motivator. Like, what is going to get you motivated to do something? Fear of something, failing a test, whatever. I mean, losing a job, not getting that, or losing a person. And the ultimate motivation, I think, is that if you want to help other people, realizing that, you have to be who you say you are. You have to do what you tell them to do. And just that, because otherwise you could look at it from a negative standpoint that could lead to embarrassment or shame or guilt, or because you're not congruent. You're not the person you say you are, right? That's not authentic. So, I like to use it as motivation. Why, people will say to me, why do you exercise as much as you do? Or why do you, care about what you eat so much? Or why are you healthy? I'm a doctor. I'm a healthcare provider. I tell people every day what they should do with their life and what they should eat and what they should do. And I tell them how important exercise is and movement and how using your brain and doing all this stuff is. How can I say that if I don't do it?
Yeah.
But yet most doctors, I remember when I was just starting out as a young guy, and there was this cardiologist that was across the hallway from me, and he was a young guy and he had just started out. And he was a little overweight in the beginning, but, not too bad. Over the course of the next couple of years, he grew to be like 400 pounds. At 35 years old, he had a quadruple bypass. He almost died from heart attack. And everybody that came in that office, I remember he had hired another young doctor who was really thin and fit. Within a year or two, this guy was overweight, and everybody in the staff was overweight. They'd come in, you'd see them at lunchtime coming in with bags of McDonald's and stuff. This is a cardiologist office. And I'm like, And I said to him one time, what do you tell people when they come in and they're in high blood pressure or whatever? I said, well, they need to take medication and they need to use diet and exercise. I'm like, really? They need to use diet and exercise. What diet and exercise advice are you giving this person?
Yeah.
Right? And so for me, again, I would feel like, how do I have a right to tell somebody how to, live their health and, maybe change the course of their life? And especially when you're dealing with mental health and especially when you're dealing with children, if you don't embody that. And that's the thing. When we talk about procrastination, we talk about task avoidance, a lot of it is, trying to find the motivation to take that first step.
Yeah.
That motivation to put the glasses on. Just doing that might be almost impossible for some people. But then once you do it, you start to alter the brain in the right way because it's ultimately the brain. And then once you do that, then that motivation is easier to find. And then if you realize that the change that you're having is coming from the action you're taking, then you're more likely to want to do that action and you become more motivated, but then you're also changing the networks in your brain that generate that motivation. You're dampening the part of your brain on the other side that makes you task avoidant and procrastinate and make you not believe that anything you're going to do is going to happen, right? So
yeah, well, I mean, I feel like this happens often, which is why we started this podcast, is where like you'll speak to something so like obviously where you're like, well, if you want it to be done, why don't you do it? And then it's like, I'm here to be like the other side where like the people who deal with all of the internal thoughts, where it's like, obviously it's not that easy. And so I feel like speaking to procrastination from like conversations that I've had with my friends that are very right brain people and just things I deal with myself. Like, I mean, I've even seen videos recently on Instagram where people are like, what it feels like to be like kind of frozen with procrastination, which is something I deal with pretty often, which like I said, I am motivated to fix these things and I'm going to for you guys. But it's something I feel like I'm just paralyzed with it. And it's like, I've spoken now about how I've struggled with bulimia and things like that. And it's like, I'll like wake up and I'll be like, okay, I'm motivated this morning. Like this happens to me a lot of days, like where my day starts where like I wake up, I told you I wake up with a lot of anxiety sometimes. And I'll wake up and I'll be like, just get up, get out of bed, go for a walk, drink a coffee. And then like, maybe I'll meditate. I'll wake up, I'll go for a walk, I'll go for a run, drink a coffee. I'll come back. And in my head, I'm like, and then you'll write in your notebook from this amount of time. And then you'll do this from this amount of time. And then you'll do this from this amount of time. And I come back and I'm just like, everything, all like the dopamine or whatever I have just goes, and I'm just like, and I'm just like, I don't even know. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do or how to time this out or how to whatever. Cause obviously I'm like my own boss. So if I don't need to like be at a right at this exact time and then go play a show at this exact time or whatever, I'm like, oh, I have to send this email and I have to do this. And like, I know all the things I need to do, but it's like, I just become completely paralyzed with it. And then I could spend like a whole day, like completely punishing myself. Like I'll like overeat and then like, be bulimic because I'm like so frantic about the things that I need to do that really aren't that crazy of things that I need to do. Like I need to sit down and I need to write an email and I have the email set out, but it's like I need to send this out. I need to go pick this up and I will literally do self-destructive behaviors for hours and hours and hours, punishing myself for not sitting down and doing all the things I need to do rather than just sit down and do them. But it's like, and then it's like, I think also I would drink more because it's like at night, maybe I would have like 1 or 2 glasses of wine and I'd be like, okay, I don't have I finally have like not that freak out mode going on in me where I could just sit down and send this email and I'm just kind of calm. And then it's like 8:00 at night. Like, I mean, luckily I'm in a creative world where like people get emails at all times, but it's like, I don't know. And like I said, I'm working on it. Like I'm not drinking as much. I'm using red light glasses, and I'm just and I have been waking up with less anxiety this week that I haven't been drinking. And I'm also just trying to like hold accountability. Like I got my whole apartment set up and everything like that. But even like my dad came over. I just got a new apartment and I had all of the boxes of everything that I unpacked. I unpacked everything, but all of the boxes were like piled up in a part of my apartment. And he came over and he was like, "What in the world is wrong with you?"
And how long were they there for?
Ugh, Dad, I'm a busy girl.
No, but how long had they been
probably
there?
like 6 weeks.
Okay.
And
that was the point.
It was
if
not
you had just taking these boxes
No,
out
but that was the thing, is that to him, he was like, take the boxes out. And I was like, no, you don't understand. There's a garbage chute in the hallway and I put my garbage in the garbage chute. But then one time I put a cardboard box and it didn't fit down there. So I had to use my workout pole to hit the box down. And then I didn't want to get in trouble. So now I have all the boxes because they said I need to bring it to the P2, but I don't know where the boxes go on P2. And then what if I get in an elevator with a bunch of attractive people and they're all watching me with all these boxes covered in tape and I don't know where the boxes go. And and this is my thought process. And then I was like, and then what if I put them somewhere and all the cameras see that I put them in the wrong spot and then I get shamed and I get kicked out of my building? And like, these are the thoughts that I have. And he was like, okay, let's take out the boxes. And then we literally went in the elevator and there was like a girl in the elevator and I was like, do you know where these boxes go? And she was like, yeah, P2 right outside the doors. We take the elevator down, walk through the doors, put the boxes down. That's it. And it took all of 4 seconds.
And also those girls were like, oh, what do you do? And you're like, I'm a songwriter. And they're like, we're songwriters too. And can I follow you? And then they followed you right away. And you knew that they probably...
Well, it was...
But the point is you made new friends.
Yeah, I did. I made new friends and I got rid of my boxes. So
and these girls like were, probably were whatever. But so you weren't shamed, you weren't embarrassed, you didn't get in trouble. But remember we had talked about when you said last time or a while ago with you woke up and out of nowhere before you almost even waking up, you had the anxiety. And I told you how you can only explain that neurologically, right? Subconsciously, and really right brain, because it has to be generated more subconscious because you're not consciously generating it. So it means that your brain is kind of doing it on its own, out of control, and it's generating these feelings for no real reason, right? There's no real reason why you should. If you were to step back and look at it objectively and say, why am I feeling this? So that's what you have to kind of look at. Same thing with when you get this overwhelm, when you feel these feelings out of nowhere, like you said, it's like dopamine gets drained out of your body or something, right? Again, it's neurological. And I want people to think of that. Whenever it doesn't make sense or there's no real reason. I mean, we generate fear because it's protective and it's supposed to happen when there's real danger, right?
Yeah.
When there's no danger, you shouldn't be overwhelmed with fear. And if you are overwhelmed with fear when there's no real danger, what is that? It's being generated by your brain. And it's because whatever the opposite of the fear network is, safety, is low. And this network is just firing off when it shouldn't in not the appropriate way. And so that's what you're describing, right? But if you look at it and you start... That's why just trying to analyze it or just trying to manage your behaviors or just try to manage your emotions or even just doing talk therapy around that is not going to change that overactive firing in that network or the underactive firing in the other network. So, I mean, many, many times I've sat with you and tried to rationalize it with you and say, there's no danger or I'm not going to die or... There's nothing that, nobody's mad at you. Like when you call me up and say, are you mad at me? No, I'm not mad at you. Nobody's mad at you. You sure? People haven't texted me back. So I think everybody in the world is mad at me right now.
Yeah.
It's not a real thing. And I can tell you that, but it doesn't change that feeling, right? Just me telling you that doesn't change that feeling you have.
Yeah. Sometimes I think, especially like with the older I've gotten, like I'll have like just really irrational fears like that will cause me to do things that are procrastination. Like that's where I'm realizing it comes from is like, I would take all those boxes out if I knew that like once I got in the elevator and I knew exactly where I was going and I knew I'd put it there, like everything was going to be okay. But it's just like the missteps, all the missteps that could happen, even though it's not a big deal, but it feels like such a big deal. Or just like sending out emails, but it's like, well, what if I say the wrong thing in the email? And then what if I ruin the relationship with this person? And it makes me think like, I'm like, I feel like if I was almost even more out of balance, I could like understand how people become like agoraphobic and like don't want to leave their house. Cause it's just like sometimes I literally won't be able to like leave my apartment because I have so much anxiety and I'm just in a state of like sitting there in freak out mode for hours.
And that's where, again, trying to understand, and that's what you just went through was really good. Like, what is the foundational feeling that makes you procrastinate? Like, if you would think about the majority of people out there, and I wish we could do a survey right now and say, if you procrastinate, what is the majority of the underlying feeling of why you're doing that? Like, why would you say? Is it lack of motivation, that I have to do this thing that just I have no interest in doing and it's boring and I don't get anything from it? I feel like that sometimes. I remember I used to really, taking out garbage or, like doing stuff around the house. Your mom will always get mad at me about that. Like, because doing certain things like that, like, that's why I'm not good with hanging pictures or using a screwdriver. For me, it's kind of like, I don't like doing it. I'm not motivated to do it. And so I may avoid it in some way or just put it off.
Yeah.
But then there's, is there fear? Is there a fear that you might fail or that you might get in trouble or it might lead to rejection or it might lead to losing a job or losing a friend or you say the wrong thing? Is it, some level of anxiety that you feel like there's some danger around it, and if you're going to do it, you're going to be in danger, physical danger. All of those, I think, can be reasons for procrastinating or for task avoidance.
Yeah.
But if what you're describing sounds more like a fear, anxiety.
Yeah, I'm going to get in trouble because I put it in the wrong place and now I can't live in this apartment building anymore.
Now that was that situation with.
Well, I think just in general, like,
but like writing out an
email, yeah. Like I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna say the wrong thing, and I'm gonna like send the wrong price of something or send the wrong whatever. Like if I'm negotiating something with somebody or whatever, and like. Or I'm just going to write something out completely wrong, which is going to write off my opportunity to make any of these things happen because I approached it the wrong way and no one's given me an outline. Like I think I've said on here before that like I'm realizing I need like someone to give me the lines so I can color outside of them. Like I like being a very creative person, but if there's zero structure going on or like even just like writing an email, I'm like, well, how the hell am I supposed to know what to say to that person? I don't fucking know. Like,
right.
And these are like basic, like everyday things that like, it seems like everyone else seems like they know, or that at least they have the confidence of knowing but I don't know. I don't even know where to begin. I don't know. And then I'm like,
yeah, it's not a knowledge problem. It's definitely not a knowledge problem that you don't know and that other people do know. It's that you feel like you don't know.
Yeah.
And you feel like other people do know, which isn't real. Again, this is not really a real situation.
Even working out in front of people, like going to like the gym or going to my gym, like I'm terrified of like I don't like to work out in front of people because I don't want to like lift the weights the wrong way or like whatever. Like I'm so hyper aware of everything going on around me all the time. And then it's like, it seems like I just don't want to work out, but I do want to work out. I just don't want anyone to see me doing it.
Because you don't want them to see that you're superhuman strength.
Well, I'm just like,
when you break something.
I had like a boyfriend in college who got made fun of for the way that he like lifted weights.
He made fun of you the way he lifted? Oh,
no, he got made fun of for it. And
did he lift him in a weird way? Yeah? Okay.
He was a little dainty.
All right.
But it doesn't matter. I just never wanted that to happen to me. And then it became like this obsessive thing where I'm like, what if I go into the gym and someone's making fun of the way I lift weights?
And that's,
I need to relax.
Again, it's all neurological here because it's all, and that's why just trying to forcibly make yourself not do this or not think this way is not the answer. There's no good way of managing these things long term. You have to try to deal with the root issue. You need to change your brain. But this is the conundrum. This is the catch-22, especially for adults. You're task avoidant, and I work a lot of this with parents. I mean, when we get kids who are young kids, let's say, that have real left brain deficits, right brain overactivity. We get some of these kids that are dyslexic, that really struggle in school, that, have all of these emotions, this perfect storm of everything. They feel like they're dumb. They feel like everybody's judging them. And they know that it's not easy for them to read. And they may get asked to read out loud in front of a class, which would be the absolute worst thing. Now you get somebody who's hypersensitive to other people making fun of them or being judged or being rejected. And you have somebody that is, struggling with confidence and, has low self-esteem, and, their ultimate fear is that they're going to be made fun of and everybody's going to reject them and they're not going to have any friends and they're not going to be allowed back in school and their parents are going to be disappointed, whatever. All of that is coming together and they know how hard it is. And all of this is happening mostly subconscious, especially in a child that doesn't know any different. And these kids are so task avoidant, meaning that, their only strategy they know is that if someone tries to make me do something that I don't want to do or that is really hard for me to do, even though I know I should be doing it and I'm supposed to do it, I have to come up with some strategy to not do it. I had this one little girl that was from Denmark this week, and we were doing some basic testing, academic testing on her in the office. And she was adorable. She was cute. She's so talented, creative, right brain. And as we're doing the testing on her, and it was relatively short, she broke down and started crying when the math came on. So, and the mom felt really bad about it and was like, oh, maybe we should find another way. And, I said to the mom, that was just a task avoiding strategy for her. And you're falling for it, right? I mean, she's getting out of doing it because she cries, because she knows you respond, and that's it. Okay? But you're here to
that's
try to...
That's some tough love.
But you're here to kind of overcome this.
Yeah.
That's a neurological issue, and she's developed these strategies around that. And her strategy is that. Another kid we had this week as well, too. We had an adult from Ireland. And when the teacher went outside the room, he locked the door. Wouldn't let her back in. Right? Now, this is a 20-something-year-old man.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, that's another task avoidance strategy. Okay, what's the strategy? I'm doing this testing, and it's academics, and I don't want to do it. And then when I asked him, I said, why'd you do that? He said, well, I locked the door because if I'm taking a test, I don't want anybody seeing me. And I'm like, is it because you're afraid if you fail the test or you don't do it well? And he's like, yeah, So, but that's another strategy. I had another kid who, he would go into a rage. Anything that sounded like criticism, anything that felt like rejection to him, he would go into a rage. And he got to the point where he would hit his mother and go after her because you're going to, take it out on the only people he can't reject. Rejection and pain are felt in the exact same areas of the brain. So,
yeah, rejection and hurts.
Yeah, literally, physically does hurt. And there's an area in the brain, the right insula, and the insula itself is the only place in your body where you feel physical pain. There's nowhere else in your brain where you actually feel that. You don't feel pain in your arm, you actually feel it in your brain. And rejection activates that same area, along with disgust, along with, many of these other negative things. So what happens is that task avoidance is a strategy that some people adapt in different ways. Again, and if you're an adult, no one's making you. You just don't do it on your own. That's your strategy. It's you avoid the task. But you may have these underlying fears around it because you know that you should be doing it. You want to do it kind of, and there's a part of you that doesn't want to do it because maybe you don't like it, or nobody likes doing something that's hard, really. You like the result of doing something hard. But if you feel like you're not going to get that result and you feel like you're going to fail, then why would you do that thing that you don't want to do to begin with, only to know you're not going to get the end result, which is the reward, which is feeling good about it and getting ultimately what you do want? Why am I going to study for a test when I'm going to take the test and fail the test? If I pass the test and get an A and I come home, my parents are happy, that's great. I like that, even though I hate studying. But why am I going to study when I'm going to fail the test and then I'm going to feel even worse and no one's going to be proud of me and ultimately I'm going to get rejected. Mm-hmm. So, this is the task avoidance and procrastination. And it's one of the biggest issues I see, especially with the right brain dominant kid. And parents don't understand it because again, it may show up like, well, they'll just start screaming and crying, or they'll just, and the parents kind of like, well, I don't want to, no one wants to feel like they're forcing them to do something that the child is like, even though it's like a basic thing, like you have to do, everybody's got to do this. You got to take a shower, you got to do your homework. I mean, and especially around homework and especially around school, that's where the biggest task avoidance issues are.
I know, remember it used to take me like 4 hours to do my homework.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I was just
like, oh, I guess I'm stupid. And then Mrs. Chaffetz said I was stupid. So,
well, she also recognized your genius because you wrote this poem.
Oh yeah,
and she thought you plagiarized it because your handwriting and was so bad and your spelling was so bad. And she was like, "How could the handwriting and spelling be so bad and it's also misspaced?" And yet the content be so good. It can't be right.
I'm a songwriter, baby.
That's the exact example of a right brain dominant creative person right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So the task avoidance thing. Well, actually, the funny thing is that and this sounds so stupid, but one of my best friends here, Sydney, when she's not on tour and she has free days, like the other day, she came over and helped me organize my entire apartment. But it was like, if I knew, I guess I don't really have a problem with doing something tedious that has no emotion attached to it, if that's why I always say on here, I'm like, it probably would be nice to be just laying bricks every day. And at the end of the day, I would get to see what I did and I would feel happy about that. And there was no emotion attached to it or something, but it's like I had to organize the rest of my apartment and I don't know if I've beat you guys over the head yet with the fact that organization is not exactly my cutest quality. And so I needed help putting the rest of my stuff away and I didn't really know where to put it. I have a lot of clothes. And Sydney was like, I had a dream last night and I had a nightmare and I woke up in a panic, just feeling like you didn't have your apartment together yet. And she's like, I can't go back out on the road until we fix this. So she picked me up. We went to I don't know, Target or whatever and got some stuff to just organize things in. And then we did my entire apartment and she was like, this will go here, whatever. And it felt totally fine. It was I had somebody there and we did it and everything was fine. And now I know where things go and whatever, but I put it off for so long because I was like, well, even if I do unpack all of these things, I don't know where I'm going to put them. And then I don't know. And then I have to do this. And it was I just couldn't, it was this circular thinking where I was none of this is going to end up where it needs to be. So even if I start doing this, I don't know how I'm going to get to the end of where it's supposed to be. But yeah, even with, Sydney or my friend Madeline or whatever, when I need to write out emails or stuff, all I need is to be do you think this is a good email to write? And they're like, yeah. And then they'll just even if someone just sits next to me, I can just send a bunch of things out. But it's for some reason, if I don't have something to bounce something off of or someone to metaphorically hold my hand, I freak out, which sounds not good. Obviously, I'm a full grown adult and I need to fix that, which I am. But that is genuinely how I feel, where I'm like, if I just even have someone just sitting next to me and they're just like, you could do this. I'm like, okay, yeah, I could do it.
Yeah, so it's like taking that first step.
Yeah.
Like if you could take that first step on your own, but you can't. But if somebody's there, then taking that first step is easier.
Yeah. It just doesn't feel like that big of a deal.
Yeah, so taking the first step is definitely a left brain thing.
Okay.
There's studies looking at what's called paratonia. I have to bring the neuroscience in, right?
Yeah, paratonia.
Paratonia is when
That's a Long Island way to say it.
Older people, when they have dementia of their frontal lobes. And there's two types of paratonia. One's called facilitative, and the other is called inhibitory. And when you have degeneration of the right brain, someone can initiate a movement, but then they can't stop it.
Oh, okay.
When you have degeneration of the left brain, overactive right, they can't start it. So somebody else has to start it, and then they'll keep on doing it. So again, when we talked about approach and withdrawal, or approach and avoidance, the left brain is approach. I'm going to approach something. I'm going to do it. I'm going to start it. And then once you get going, you can do it. And that's part of procrastination as well. It's usually about just starting it. Once you start it, you're okay. It's the starting that's the hard part, right?
Yes.
And so again, that's the right brain holding back that left brain. And it manifests in, either saying, God, I really don't want to do this, or I'm afraid that something might happen if I do this, or then you start thinking of, which is a way of task avoiding, is like coming up with an excuse as to why I don't have to do this, right? Like it's almost like your right brain is generating that excuse that allows you to say, well, I'm not doing this because what if I send it, and I'm trying not to do that. But it's really that you can't just start it. And that's where, other strategies, but just, activating that left brain more and activating that brain, which gives you that motivation, allows you to start something. And, and then part of it is also maturity of your brain, and your frontal lobe again is maturing, later on in life. And when I was younger, same thing. I remember when I was younger, when I was talking to somebody, especially who I perceived in an authority state, it would be hard for me to send them an email or call them, or if I had to, and even though they were very friendly or whatever, if they were somebody that was 20 years older than me and really very successful and said to me, hey, I really want to talk to you and let's call me, I'd be nervous about doing that. And I would avoid it, and maybe not do it. And actually sometimes miss opportunities because of that.
Yeah, I've done that.
So when I was in my 30s, I would be more like that. When I was in my 20s, I'd be more like that. So, part of it, you learn that, a certain point, things like just get it done, or you activate certain things. And I think partly writing books and doing a lot of things I did, that I kind of leaned into my weakness on the left side. And I wanted to write. I wanted to be an author. I wanted to teach. I wanted to be a lecturer. So I had to do certain things that didn't come as naturally to me. And that was like reading a lot of textbooks, and then eventually writing. And I think that helped my left brain come online even more. And that also allowed me to be even more, let's just do it. Let's go to it, and even so that I now I never have a problem with procrastination or anything like that. And I haven't for many, many years, because at a certain point, and I think I've mentioned this to you, there's also a certain part of it where, I remember when I was a kid or in college, and you have a paper coming up and you have a test coming up, and you're like, you can't help, you start thinking about all these things. I have this paper, and then I have this test, and then I have this other thing I have to do. And what if I don't do it? And what if I don't study? What if I fail this test? What if I don't get this paper done? And you think about that all the time.
Yeah.
And then you pile this stuff on, all this stuff that you have to do, and it becomes overwhelming. And at a certain point in my life, I remember I realized that, like I had a book deadline, and I had lectures coming up, and I had all these big things I had to do. And I wasn't anxious because I realized that right now I'm just dealing with this one thing, and I know I will get that done, and I know I will do it well. At a certain point, I developed enough trust in myself that I knew it would happen, and I didn't worry about it. I knew, like, when the time came, I would get it done. And so even with yourself, like if you have to write a song, if you have to perform in a show, if you have to really get something done, you always do it.
Yeah.
And you always do it well. Remember we talked about how you've always gotten really positive feedback, really your whole career. Nobody's ever really rejected you. You've never really gotten a lot of trouble, even in school, right? And you're so afraid of getting in trouble. You're so afraid of getting kicked out of your apartment. And none of that has ever happened to you in your life.
I am deathly afraid of it. One of my friends texted me the other day, and he said, "Hey, we need to talk." And the dread that consumed my body. I have not wronged this person. And I was like, I texted him back, and I was like, what? And he's like, you never told me that you were playing this show at this place, and now I'm not going to have time to like get a ticket or something. Like, he was like joking with me. And then I was like, don't say things like that. Like, I thought I was in the biggest trouble ever. I thought he talked to the principal of my high school, and he talked to the IRS, and he was in cahoots with the owner of my apartment building, and they all decided you're canceled.
And I used to think like that when I was younger. So you do get a lot of this craziness from me.
Thank you.
Probably more from your mother, but me.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
And I remember those days. And the nice thing to know is that as you mature and go down the road, you will lose this, right? You will lose it.
God, I hope so.
But you know what gets you over it? To go back to the beginning, I was talking about, there's something that gives you that motivation to get you going, to get you started. And what does that a lot is being a parent.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, because, when there's always a little person watching you, and you realize that, and again, as I said earlier, I was acutely aware from a young age that, you need to be the example as the parent. Like, you can't just talk about it. Because I had incredible examples as parents, and so did your mom have incredible examples as parents.
And so do I. And
so from a very young age, when you see your little children and you love them so much and they're looking at you, I mean, look at Dallas's kids last night. They're so cute and beautiful, so cute. And looking at you, and they're so like, you're their everything. And you realize that whatever you do, they're going to do it. And so you got to be careful about what you do. And I remember your mom said that, she was a little bit messy at times, not that much, honey, and she said, when she had kids, it was like, listen, I can't, somebody has to make their beds. Somebody, the house has to be clean. I can't have my kids coming home to a pigsty. So that motivation. I remember Emmy, when we had her on, and she was talking about like one of the things that helped her with her eating issues was getting pregnant, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm not going to I'd go to the extreme and just be like, why don't I just start popping out children and then my brain will be healthy? Like, I'm gonna try and just fix it before just having a whole family is my only option of being mentally healthy.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. But I understand how you could have maybe taken it that way, or anybody out there might have taken it that way. The answer is go pop out kids. No. The thing is that it has something. There's a certain maturation that takes place, and there are certain things that accelerate that process. One of them is becoming a parent, but it's also about, also you could try to provide that motivation to yourself by again, there's always somebody watching.
Well,
you.
being an example. So that's why
Being
I
an
started doing this,
example.
because I'm talking about all of these things, and you did.
Like,
you
they're all your children.
Yeah, you checked me. You were like, hey, you can keep talking about this, but if you don't fix yourself, then like, what are you doing? And that really stuck with me. I was like, all right, let's go.
And
like,
the thing about being a right brain dominant person is that you want to help others.
Yes,
That's
that was the
thing.
whole point of starting this podcast.
You want people to be happy. You want to help others. You don't want people to struggle and suffer like you've struggled, and you feel that pain. It's like seeing somebody in pain and saying, I can take that pain away.
Yeah.
Being an empath, right? That's what an empath means. And that's your motivation. So that's the same thing as, being a parent. You have that kind of motivation that there's people out there that I want to help. I want to make a difference. I want to make sure they have a better life. And again, I want to also try to hold them accountable, which means you have to hold yourself accountable.
Yes.
And that can provide that motivation, but to start. But the thing is, if you give your left brain a boost by putting on the glasses, by giving other things, by doing certain things that will activate your left brain, exercising or moving your body, because we said movement helps stimulate, those dopamine motor pathways. Mm-hmm. That will help you initiate it. And then once you initiate it, you'll keep on doing it. And also learning to have faith in yourself that you always get it done and you always do it well. And just getting to a point where worrying it doesn't change that, and compartmentalizing, realizing that, okay, I have a song that I need to do next month, but I have another song that I need to do right now. So worrying about that song next month isn't going to help me. I'll get it done. Let me just write this song now.
Yeah.
And focus on this, do it well. And then I know I'll get to that next song and I know I'll do it well. But a lot of people are going to be like, I'm worrying about this song this month and that and next and next and that show. And don't worry about them, right? Do what you got to do.
Yeah, just take things step by step.
Yes.
But yeah, I guess me saying that doing this podcast and knowing that you guys are listening has been helpful to me. And if you're anything like me and you do need someone to just even sit next to you and kind of hold your hand, hopefully maybe like this podcast can be kind of a form of that. So if you guys are also feeling like you need that, you could think of this as the community, listen to this while you're trying to do your stuff or not, or just send in questions and just so you feel like you're not alone. And yeah, we could do it together.
Absolutely. And that's a really nice way of doing it, that, if you can provide a little bit of that help and motivation just to get started, because most of the time that's all you need.
Yeah.
Is just get started. Take that first step.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I poured I overshared as usual.
No,
and I won't have anxiety about it after. Just kidding.
Just kidding. You will.
Just kidding. I will. You won't. Okay. Okay. Well, yeah. Send in your questions, and until next time, I love you guys, and I love you, Dad.
I love you.
Okay. Bye.